Men experience similar or higher levels of mental health difficulties than women, but they are less likely to seek help. There is, by itself, a lot of stigma when it comes to mental health in itself, regardless of gender, but the stigmatization is worse when it comes to men's mental health and men's mental health difficulties. The reason for this is none other than the societal construct of masculinity and the idea of how men should be. This narrative of men are supposed to be strong and macho and not be vulnerable and not have feelings, and even if they have feelings, they are not supposed to express it, and expressing feelings and vulnerability means they are weak. This is what makes it especially hard for men to accept and also sort of reach out for help when they are going through something. What's interesting is that it does not stop at making it difficult for men to reach out for help when they develop any sort of mental health issues, but this notion itself is the reason sometimes as to why men develop severe mental health issues that can go undiagnosed. Of course, there are biological factors, genetic factors, neurotransmitters, and all of that. But what makes these genetic predispositions worse is the prescribed idea of masculinity itself. When men are told to be strong and not be vulnerable, they become so out of touch with themselves and they become so out of touch with their emotions that they end up not knowing how to express or manage their emotions, especially any type of vulnerable emotions like pain and sadness. They are so out of touch with them. Now, when we talk about anger as an emotion, it's a secondary emotion. And what I mean by secondary emotion is that more often than not, underneath anger, we have there are more of vulnerable emotions such as pain, abandonment, jealousy, fear underneath all of this anger. So when there is a notion that men are not supposed to be vulnerable, men find it shameful to express vulnerability, and the only way to express that any sort of discomfort is by being angry. And this narrative is sort of socialized from a very young age. As you all know, statements such as boys do not cry, stop whining like a girl, and all of these things are very much socially constructed and enables a lot of mental health difficulties for men. Women are more likely to direct their anger or direct their discomfort inward and sort of look for a way to blame themselves, because society teaches them to take up responsibility, even responsibility of others, into themselves. Men are more likely to lash out as a result of feeling vulnerable because it sort of helps them feel more in control of their emotions. In fact, this causes such an issue that most men who actually have depression may not get diagnosed, because depression criteria says that there should be intense feeling of sadness and hopelessness over a period of time, and men don't really express their symptoms the way depression is traditionally supposed to look like. They actually express more of irritability and anger. So men will come with anger management issues into therapy sometimes, but when we look closely, it might actually be depression. Sometimes they don't seek help at all. That is worse, because society says that it's normal and okay for a man to be angry, not knowing the sort of distress and turmoil that they might actually be expressing inside all of that anger. Now, men's mental health concerns have obviously been affected by the pandemic, just like everything else, and everybody else's stress and mental health concerns have become severe. Men are experiencing severe distress because of economic decline and how that is affecting their families' well-being and survival itself. And since men are supposed to be the primary caregiver and the primary breadwinner of their families, they ignore their own problems, they ignore their own mental health difficulties, and they feel like if they are being weak by having mental health issues, how can they provide for their family? And more than the survival aspect of this, This directly affects their self-esteem because men's idea of self is so intertwined with how much money that they are making and how much they can provide for their family. Along with this, another effect of the COVID-19 would be men are finding it difficult to adjusting to new roles and new activities that they have to do by staying at home, such as increased caregiving responsibilities and helping their children to attend online classes, more household chores. All of these things are affecting as well. The bottom line is we must bring a change to the narrative of what is prescribed for each gender. It becomes increasingly difficult to acknowledge a difficulty that we are going through when there is shame and guilt involved. And shame is the direct effect of stigmatization. We must bring vulnerability as a principle of emotional strength. We must bring a change in prescription of masculinity and femininity and what a man or what a women are supposed to go through and what they should experience. And personally, I want men to know that their internal struggles are just as valid as any other struggle, and that does not make them less of a man.